Hello. Apologies if you're watching this and you thought the stream was starting at 8 o'clock UK time. I've just had the most mental of days, and my amazing wife has allowed me to just get out here early, and she's putting the kids to bed. So I'm taking advantage of a head start and just getting going. This is going to be another absolutely chaotic stream because nothing is planned, and I have things to put together, which are covered in Loctite. The neighbourhood kids are running around outside, so if you hear kids screaming, they're not mine, they're someone else's, and hopefully they'll quieten down later. So it is GS02 time, and I've had a huge box of stuff delivered from Make It Build It, courtesy of Liam, who, if you watched the last live stream, was the person whose truck I was putting the cantilever suspension on. Well, it might have been a previous live stream, but we'll see. So we've got GS02, sort of. GS02 axles. I've still not sorted out the axles. Half of them is still stuck on here, so I've got some, just checking for my address, got some Junfac axles here. I've got a Sharpie so I can just hide my address, so hopefully no one sends me anything weirder than the stuff that I already get sent by a few people. So today I'm going to be putting together a Ford motor mount and a skid for this thing, but the very first thing I have to do is just try and get these existing drive shafts off. So we'll get those drive shafts off and off we go. But yeah, say hello in the chat if you're watching this. Catch up to the front and then go back and re-watch later if you want. Yeah, all my tools are still in my bag from the weekend because I carry a lot of tools because I tend to be a bit mad and break stuff on the trail. And I need the MIP drivers to get these drive shafts off. So let's get these off first. Oh wow, they came out easier than the gearbox end. That's one, and that's the other. So we'll need those drive shafts in a bit, but for now they're just going into the pile. There's a couple of shims just knocking about, so I'll just grab those off because I'll no doubt lose those. Grab a little box, put all of that in, drive shaft, bits and bobs. Right, I've got a big pile of stuff from Amazon and Make It Build It, including saws for chopping up hard bodies and other things for chopping up hard bodies. Let's put those to one side. I've got bodies. Yay! YouTube actually gave you a notification. That's awesome. Yeah, I've got hard bodies. These are Tamiya hard bodies, so they're completely the wrong wheelbase, but they will be fun. I'm just trying to find my Ford motor mount, which is this doodad. This is just a sort of test piece, so we're just going to put this together and see how it goes. I've got some servo mounts for my Ford motor mount, and yeah, the rest of the bits are all in this box. So I'll just dig stuff out while people trickle in. Oh look, another Tamiya body. So I've got a Tamiya body for a Blackfoot and a Midnight Pumpkin, just because I like the look of them. This Ford motor mount is going to be a bit of a hybrid of basically stuff that I've got knocking around. It was designed for an axial shaft, but what I couldn't find on the internet was the fact of whether the axial shaft had enough space for a drive shaft pin or not. Turns out it doesn't. So I'm using Traxxas drive shaft pin. I've got my slotted skid and hopefully a transfer case, which I've got here. So the reduction ratio on this is quite low. So I've got someone who is sending me one of their old motors. And I use a brushed motor that's a takeoff from an RC four-wheel drive Marlin. And the motor that comes on the Marlin, let's try and get in frame, is a 55 turn motor, because the motor that I was going to use is a 27 turn, and that would be way too fast for what I'm doing. So instead of making more gearbox, which I could do and could design up, what I'm actually going to do is look at changing the motor. Now, changing the motor means that it'll be a lower kV motor. It'll have a weirder torque band than I'm used to. It'll have a big spike in startup torque, and then that'll tail off really quickly. But we can talk about motors later. So, but that will stop the truck from being geared to do 20 miles an hour, and instead it'll be geared to do about 8 miles an hour or 6 miles an hour, which will make it much better. So yeah, so we've got the GS02, and we'll try and do skid first. Now, all these bits that are in the way will just move out so that you can actually see what's going on. Ooh, couldn't see that there. So the very first thing is this skid. So I've got a skid that I've created a slotted skid because I've got my little transfer case. I'm not sure where that's going to mount on the skid, so I don't know how far forward or backwards that needs to be. So that transfer case is going to sit somewhere on there, but I don't need that right now. The first thing I need to do is get this skid sort of mounted into the chassis. I need to remember which end's the turning end, which is this end. So we'll mount in the skid first, and then do everything else off that. Probably do the forward motor mount as well. So now having a skid in here gives me a chance to have a look at link lengths and other stuff, and I'm missing ball ends and things, so I'm gonna have to mess around with links. So yeah, let's just push a couple of these in. So I might have to use Traxxas rod ends, might have to use Traxxas links, I don't know, don't really mind, but I do size all of my skids for Traxxas stuff, so that will be my first challenge. But I've also designed some new sliders as well, so they are super small sliders. I just want them up and out the way, and hopefully if I can find a bag of bolts we can get the sliders on and off we go. Hey Kieran, thank you to all of you for joining. I've had quite a difficult day at work, so I just decided to get started as soon as my wife said I could leave the house. Right, so there we go. It's actually starting to feel like a truck now. So we've got those lovely nice high sliders. They look very reminiscent of sort of a G-Speed skid and sliders, I guess. That wasn't on purpose, it's just with an angled skid, and the design, you know, form follows function, which means if we're all trying to do the same thing. In fact, I've got in the works sliders on my other truck, and I've just noticed that these are marginally lower centre of gravity, so these might make it onto my other truck. So now I've got those two in, I need to get these in for my upper links, but my upper links are just sat around somewhere. But what I do have, if I move these saws, is a load of GPM links. Now I generally don't use these because they're aluminium and they break. But this truck is going to have a hard body anyway, so I'm probably going to be mollycoddling it everywhere as it is. So we'll just have a quick look to see if that's even going to be a goer. And actually, that immediately is absolutely the right length. So now I need to find some bolts to bolt that on with. Just going to pull some stuff out of my random bolt box. They're going to be too long. They're going to be marginally too long, but they'll do for now. I also need some long bolts, but I think straight away we are going with maybe some GPM links. Do I want to run aluminium links? Yes, sod it, why not? So, yeah, we'll get one of these long bolts in. Great. So I probably should have held off before I did that and just make sure that I've got another link that's the same, but sometimes I end up rushing. So already it's starting to look a bit like a crawler. Now, with such an angled skid, I have just swapped over to get my brain in gear. I have just swapped over to using straighter links on my other truck, but I think these GPM links are not very curved or not very kinked. They're a bit less of a curve than the links that I had on my other truck that I now can't seem to find. I'd left out for comparison, but they're gone. They are on Traxxas ball ends though, so I don't know how well they're going to fit. But yeah, this chassis has a really angled skid. So if I hold that, you can kind of see there's a massive angle to it. So if you have links that are too tucked in, you hang up on this edge. And in fact, oh yeah, I found a front link from my other truck. You can see it's got much more of an angle on it. In fact, the skid, I'm just going to modify slightly and just trim the skid to be flush with the rails, just on that sort of entry point. So we'll just cut that in. Right, that's great. This thing's printed, it's gonna be one of those nights. This thing's printed solid PETG, so I can just chop away at it. There's no infill, it's just 100% PETG. So this kind of modification is absolutely fine. It just chamfers it in, makes it fit a bit better. Yeah, we're good. Right, take that out of there. So we are now going to see if these rod ends are going to fit. Oh, they're going to be slightly rattly, but I'll live. I'll shim those up later or chuck in a washer or something else. Need my shorter screws. Nope, they're too short. And we'll get some links in, which will just make the whole process much easier for me to get my head around. So if you just bear with me while I get these two in, and then it'll start to make sense. It looks like our upper link's going to be a bit strange, so we'll sort that out. So to be honest, that slight little rattle there, I'm not too worried about that. I'll put a washer in later, but it's already a million times better than it ever was when it was on the G-made rod ends. So, oh, actually, when it triangulates in properly, that feels much better. That might just be because the links are rubbing against the skid, but again, if the links are rubbing against the skid, then it's just going to get chopped, because I've made it the same as all of my other skids for the overdrive gearbox. Just use that as a template, and obviously G-made axial stuff is slightly different, but fortunately these rails have got the axial, the HPI, the elements, and the TRX bolt pattern, and probably a few others because they're team. So yeah, actually, yeah, it's already feeling quite smooth and nice. So our upper link doesn't have a home because it's a bit too short at this point in time. Actually, I think if I unwound it slightly, it would be perfect. Oh no, actually, that is perfect. We need a bolt that's long but not too long, but this one will do for now. Are they good? Yeah, that's good. Right. What I did forget to buy was more nylock nuts. So that will invariably bite me along this process. But let's see. Right. Just going to get the link on. And we're going to leave the rear end flopping around while we sort out the forward motor mounts, which I probably should have put in the description of this video, but I forgot. As I say, busy day at work, wasn't really in the right headspace. Great, so yeah, so those high clearance links are just, oh no, they're not touching the top link. Yep, everything is flexing perfectly. So it just needs the panhard sorting out. The front end is ready. So we will lift up slightly because I just need to. And then off we go. Right, so while I'm just sorting this out, I'll just babble on about what's happening tomorrow. Tomorrow there is a Facebook help. Tomorrow there's a video coming out. I said I was going to start doing videos every month or so if I can manage it, and I have managed it. So there is a video coming out on these 3D printed foams, with how I came up with them, how they came together, and how they perform. So hopefully you'll enjoy that. Just quickly fixing my work stand, and yeah, it's just practicing trying to do videos that aren't just me talking as a head as well. Not that anyone's complaining, but it's just, I watch a lot of YouTube myself, and you know, you kind of see other people doing it, and you know what you like. So that's what I wanted to do. Right, here we go. So let's see if we can get this forward motor mount system working somehow. So as you can see, we've got the slotted skid. The links do come up into the chassis quite a bit, so I'm going to have some fun on breakovers there. But even if I had straight links, I'm still going to have some fun on breakovers. It's looking like this thing is going to build so that the skid is, yeah, the belly is about the same level as the axles. So it's going to be a very, very low truck. I usually try to build my trucks about 60-65 mil of the skid off the ground. This is going to be much lower, which will be interesting. It'll be a massive belly dragger. If it's belly dragging a large hard body, not the heaviest hard body I've ever run, but if it's dragging a hard body, that'll be interesting. And to be honest, I've realised that these Tamiya bodies are the wrong wheelbase. So part of me makes me think that I'll just cut them in half and have two cabs on the truck, or just something stupid looking because I can. But yeah, let's have a look at this forward motor mount. I've got a little jeweler's vice to one side that I'm going to use to stuff some bearings in. So I'm just going to get some bearings. But this is my forward motor mount, which is not the most interesting of things. It also has a servo mount somewhere, because I'm going to mount the servo super close inside. But the thing about this is most forward motor mounts sit out here, which is on the back of your shock towers. Thirsty work. This one is going to sit somewhere here, and it's going to be silly far forwards. But that said, given how high the pumpkin can get, let's just see what we're going to get away with. I'm going to have to take the nose off, because the nose of the G-Maid's very, very, very tight. It's obviously had a vicarious youth. I'm also going to trim down, depending on how the body sits, I'm going to trim down the front of these rails. I've cut them down on my other truck just to get them to fit inside the shell, and I was tempted to cut them down further, but then I realised that would be cheating. So yeah, I'll get this motor mount installed, and then I've got a motor to kind of mock things up, and then somewhere I have a hybrid spur. When I mean a hybrid, I mean this shaft is a Traxxas shaft and the rest is knockoff axial. But yeah, I want my motor somewhere around here. And then hopefully I can get the servo to mount and everything else. So on first thoughts, I can actually get it a bit further forwards. I've got a little bit of a challenge with how the panhard's mounted, but actually, let's see if we can mount. I mean, that would be mad to try and mount a motor that tightly in. But let's see. Interestingly, the G-Maid motor has a bigger bearing on it, so it doesn't actually fit into my forward motor mount like my other one did. So that makes mocking up a bit of a pain. But yeah, no time like the present. So I'll grab some bolts, which again I've just strewn everywhere, and get it together. Am I RC cars, crawlers, or do I own any other types? I did have a trail truck. I drove it off a cliff. Still haven't put it back together, but I will put it back together. But I am just crawlers. Not really bothered by anything else. I was drones, but then the laws in the UK just became an absolute pain and just couldn't be bothered with them. So switched back to crawlers. 10th scale or 24th scale. The 24th has sat not used for a while, and now I have reached 1,000 subs. I will be doing that brushless conversion on it, but we're in the middle of buying a house, so trying not to buy too many parts unnecessarily. Just going to squeeze this bearing in. It's just off camera, but I just use a little jeweler's vice to squeeze bearings in because it's just easy. You can use any kind of vice, to be honest. Just don't drop the bearing while you're talking into a camera that's sat straight in front of you. Oh, that's a nice tight interference fit. Yeah, drones were a lot of fun, but I was doing racing and camera drones, and just, I don't know, it was just too much effort, too much of a pain. Had to be in certain places. Crawlers I can just go to anywhere that I used to hike or trail run, and generally they are great places to use a crawler. Just squeezing this bearing in, and this is fun because I've got to do another one in a second, but that has gone in fine. So now we have a bedding in our motor mount, and that's for this to sit in. And actually, given where that's sitting, bit of a wobbly spur, but I'll tidy that up. Given where that is, that's quite good. Yeah, it's not so much a test. It's well, yeah, you have to do an online hazard awareness test. It's all a bit. I'm not a fan of our current government in the UK, and I don't want to upset anyone who is, but they have introduced a lot of rules that don't really do much, don't really help, and just make hobbies a bit of a pain. So my challenge here is going to be the steering, where the steering servo sits. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to install the forward motor mount. I'm not going to install the servo mount because it's not going to work for this application. And just use a nose mounted servo mount. So let's get this installed. Because I do have to if I use bolts which are a bit too long, I have, so I'm going to get these bolts out. But yeah, in the UK you need a pilot registration, a pilot test, and a few other things for a hobbyist drone, and then for a commercial drone it's £1,000 or so, and then a course and a few other bits and bobs, and all that does is just give you slightly reduced safety requirements, but they're still overbearing, and they're still a bit of a pain. I've managed to lose the bolts that I needed. Oh, these might do. Yeah, they'll do. Unless I can see the box anywhere. Missing. Yeah. Okay. Okay, great. Right, so let's get this. I'm going to get this mocked up, and then I'm probably going to reprint it with slightly bigger holes for the motor to go in, and a few other bits and bobs. But this wants to check axles and just basic clearance of everything. I'll show it to you all in a moment. It just takes a bit of fiddling when you're doing stuff that you've only ever seen on CAD. You don't have anything other than a couple of measurements that you've taken quickly off the rails and basically done a half-assed job of. The other thing I'm going to find is I probably don't have a drive shaft long enough to go from this to the actual transfer case, and then I'll find the transfer case is a pain. But this is a slow burner, this project. This is not a kit. This is an absolute designed and built and put together by an idiot in his garage. There we go. Right, so right, so that's our forward motor mount, but it's forward of the shock hoops for now. I mean, I do actually have space to bring it further back, but then I don't know how it's going to perform or crawl or do anything else. This is our spur, so it's a TRX4 shaft, and then the rest is all well, in the UK it's called Fast Tracks, but if you get it off Banggood it's Topac. It's a 87 tooth spur. I'm going to be running a 13 tooth pinion and a 1000 kV motor, so it should be geared fine. Oh, someone with a feisty car is outside. That's spinning quite freely. But actually the next thing to do is the servo, and actually I think my front axle is a bit too far forwards, so my servo idea might still work. So I'm going to put this transfer case together. So when I design gearboxes and things, I try and use as many stock gears and parts as possible. So I've got axial bits and bobs here. So that's an axial output shaft. And I've got another axial output shaft and a pin, which is useful. And when I can find the gears and we can test out the gears. One thing I don't like about RC is all this packaging, all this plastic packaging is a bit disappointing. That's worrying because the 36 tooth gear that I need for this build hopefully is in the box somewhere, because otherwise it's fallen out and got lost. But let's just try this. There we go. Quick dig about, it's in the box. So, transfer cases and gearboxes and stuff. Just check chat messages. With gears, you can work out how big they are by putting it into a gear calculator. So this is a 36 tooth, 48 diametrical pitch gear, and you put that into a gear calculator and it tells you how wide it is. And then you get your 28 tooth or your 26 tooth, and you do the same there. And then you take the radius of each of these and you add them together, and that's the distance apart that they need to be when they're sat on a shaft. And then you plug that into your CAD and then you end up with your parts together. Now, I always give myself about a mil or two, not a mil, a slight, tiny bit of tolerance, because 3D printing bearing races is not an exact science. But what I do know is I now need 4 bearings, because I need 2 in this, 2 in this, and then hopefully that forms my transfer case. So I'm just going to squash these in. Tell you what, I'll do this on camera. Won't that be a joy? So this is just a tiny little jeweler's vice, and with 3D printed parts, if you print, so I set the hole to be 11 mil, but then 3D printers have a bit of tolerance as well. So I actually make sure that the holes are somewhere around 10.9 to 10.8 mil in size, and that gives you enough tightness that if your bearings have these lovely beveled edges, that they just kind of squeeze in together and hold nice and tight. Now, if you don't do that, then just a dab of super glue on the bearing, on the outside of the bearing or the inside of the hole, and that'll just stop it from slipping out, provided you've made it roughly tight enough. It just means if there's any bang, there's something just stopping that immediate impact. But that's our bearings installed into our front plate of the transfer case. Now, I did think about making this transfer case so both the plates were replaceable and you can swap the gears out. But then I thought, actually, for the cost of printing a transfer case, it wasn't worth doing that, and the extra stiffness you get from making this a one-piece is fantastic. So what I'm doing is just running off what's called the elephant's foot, which is where I've squashed this into the print bed. There's just a little bit of extra material where it's squashed in, and I've sized this so it fits inside the jaws of the vise for easier installation, he says, and then gets it completely wrong, but we'll get there. There we go. So with one of those installed, I'll just get the other one installed. So many things can affect the size of the holes on a 3D printed part. So the amount of cooling, the amount of material around it, the tool path of the head and everything else. So it is a case of printing each part, testing the tolerance of the holes, and then adjusting the hole sizing of the slicer to make sure that each part is getting the right sized holes. Otherwise you end up with a little bit of wiggle, or you end up with bearings that just fall out. And actually this week I had a bearing, well, I had a bearing fall out last week, and then I found it on the trail yesterday. So that's those bearings. These axial gears actually have a nice kind of lip on them, so I don't have to put, well, I don't need to put any spacers on. It's got a nice hole for a pin that's too small, so I'll use this one. And then that doesn't fit in there, that fits in there. Sometimes the pins don't fit in the shaft, so that's our smaller one, that sits in there. Then I need a pin, which I think I've got in here. No, not that one, this one. I've got a very tiny, very critical pin that, because this has been thrown around and thrown everywhere, I've probably lost, but let's just see. There it is. There's my tiny and critical pin. That goes on this shaft and into that gear, which I'm just going to make sure sits roughly on the center of this shaft. And then with any luck, I've picked the right two gears and we have a transfer case. Simple as that. Then we're going to use a bit of high performance lithium grease. Which of course, yeah. How often do gears last? Gears last, I mean, that's entirely subjective. Gears last until you break one, is the real answer. So I couldn't tell you. I honestly couldn't tell you. I replace gears when I shatter them. I replace bearings when things go crunchy, and I don't worry too much about anything until either of those things happen. And if I get this right, that should close. And some of these bearings don't sit perfectly. This box takes a bit of pushing back together. That pin has just popped out that gear. Let's just get that sorted. But yeah, I don't stress about gearboxes. I don't replace things unnecessarily. If I hear a crunch, I know I've got to fix something. That's about it. So yeah, that's our transfer case. It's not the most free moving at the moment, and that's because my bearings haven't sat perfectly. Stuff falling out behind me, but first I'm going to get these screws in. Now hopefully I've pulled the right screws out. Are they the right size? I hope so. That feels like it's the right size. Can't pull it out. Great. So I've designed this to take these small M2 bolts to hold this front plate on. That feels like it's strong enough in there. I'm just a little bit nervous that I designed it for a slightly bigger bolt and I haven't got any. But that's, oh yeah, that's gone together fine. So that's my transfer case. That's great. So that front plate is now held on with 3 bolts, and now that's on tight, this is moving a lot smoother. And I've got 2 options here. Both are relatively easy to sort out. I can try and just jiggle these bearings around until they're perfect, which I'm not going to do. I'm just going to give them a little nudge till they move freely. Yeah, they're free. And actually the motion of them spinning around will make them sort of heat up a little bit and sort themselves out. I do think I should have put some shims in this one. Whether I can be bothered to take it apart or just let it rub itself loose. Yeah, probably let it rub itself loose. Right, I'm going to just pick up any spare gears, bolts, shims, spacers, bits and bobs. Still got the internals of an axial one, so if I want to do bigger gear reduction, I can just get back onto CAD, sort that out. If I want to put an idler gear in, I can. But I don't need to, because the the G-Made is a counter-rotating gearbox. So that's our transfer case. My plan was to have the spur attach to the rear-facing shaft and just go direct straight through, and then the front be overdriven. So we can kind of see if that's going to work. Right. So with that in mind, we need to run a drive shaft from our spur down to this motor. But before we do that, let's mount the motor, or mount the transfer case ever so quickly. I'm just going to do it gently, and it's not going to slide forwards and backwards, so I'm just going to mount it as far forwards as I can. And I had the sense this time to chamfer the holes at the bottom of the transfer case, so when I'm trying to get a bolt through blind, it goes together a bit better. They sort of lock into place, which is really good. So there we go. So we've got 3 bolts in the bottom that hold this transfer case. That lets the transfer case move forwards and backwards when I haven't done it up quite so tight, which is good. In fact, I've just loosened that off so it can wiggle around. There we go. So our transfer case can move forwards and backwards, which is good. I mean, obviously in operation, that would be a bad thing. But right now, while we're trying to sort it out, that's a good thing. So now this is what I've been wondering about, is whether my drive shaft will reach. And it looks like it will. So that forward motor mount is quite far forwards, but hey ho, let's go with it, and then I will find some shorter front lengths, and we'll go from there. So let's install these. If I wasn't such a mess. I'm really enjoying the mess of this table because I'm having to be so organised in my job. It's nice to just have a bit of mess somewhere that I don't have to worry about. Now, talking about being organised, I think the shaft that I've put into the transfer case is the wrong way round in terms of length, but we will soon find out. Now let me just check these pins will fit through. Yeah, so this is just a fitment challenge. There we go. Right, I'm not going to put the fancy Boom Racing red whatever dress up parts were supposed to go on this, but I am going to try and make sure my axles are somewhat aligned. There we go. I'm also going to pin this and stop it from sliding forwards and backwards. Right now I'm just trying to see if I can sort drive shafts out, and then once I've sorted out drive shafts, see if it'll turn. Now that pin is too big for that, so I'm going to take a Traxxas pin and hope that works. Or at least I say I'm going to take a Traxxas pin. I've got to find one first. I see, right, so the pins that I wanted to use are a bit too big, so I need to find a way to sort that out. I think my options are fairly limited, and it's going to be drill it out, or drill it out, or drill it out. So I'm going to do the drive shafts for the axles to the transfer case now, and do that instead. So for that I need some parts. Just in a handy box. Let's see if I can find all the pieces that I need. Right, we'll start with a John Fack drive shaft, which is a front one, which will be good because it'll help me space my links out properly. And I know that I had spare drive shafts somewhere, which I managed to lose. There we go. Got a spare drive shaft tree, because the limitation with the John Fack one is when they do finally spit out their pin, they also take a hole out the drive shaft as well. So just going to sort this out with a new sleeve. And sort this one out with a new sleeve as well. Should just take a moment. I'm not really paying attention to questions, so I should. What transmission is that? It is a transmission that I've designed myself, which is a bit of a theme on this channel, is random stuff that I design myself and test out. So it is the lowest, it's the lowest CG transmission I could manage. And I wouldn't hold your breath as to whether it's any good yet, because I need to get drive shafts and things sorted. You know what, we'll throw all of it away. Good afternoon, North 49RC. Right. So, probably should have paid attention to the length of the bits that I've just thrown away. That's the front one, that's the back one. Great. So we're just doing a new drive shaft. as soon as we've got this drive shaft sorted, we will crack on with the rest. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it should be either 30% or 40% overdrive, depending on if it works. But it's designed for quite a few low power motors, probably like a Fusion 1200 and similar. Yeah, we are getting there. I should really look at stuff before I throw it in the bin. Right. Lots of chat today. It's great. Yeah, the chassis is getting there, although these front links are far too long, so we will sort that out in a minute. Right. That pin needs to go through that. I'm trying to remember how these work. Oh yeah, that was it. Right, okay. That pin goes in there. That goes in there. These are stock GS02 drive shafts. It's just all that I had in the garage, so just go in with it. So I'm going to pin these together. Junfac do just really weird drive shafts. Their plastic ones are not worth it. And they're full of little grub screws and pins and things that all just fall apart compared to TRX. Axles. Oh, I'm having a really bad voice. It is GS02, G-made GS02 axles. I've lost a bolt. Never mind. G-made GS02 axles that fit the Junfac drive shafts and stuff. Right, that's one sorted. And the bolt was roughly one of those, although that's just all gone together, so that must be the spare one. Right, great. So this drive shaft should give us the overall length of how long the front links should be, which then means I can have a look at everything else. Why is that not fitting in there? Ah, there we go. And of course, this crawler, being based on a G-made, is going to get absolutely babied over everything, because when I've gone TRX mad style driving on a G-made, it's exploded repeatedly. I love my G-made crawlers because they are fantastic performing crawlers, but they are soft. So the front drive shaft is, yeah, that. So these links too long. They're far too long. I'm going to make that decision now. So what am I going to do? I'm going to dig out the spare links that I've got. Just means I need to find a Revo rod end from somewhere. I'm going to put shorter front links on. That's what I'm going to do. That will make life much easier. If of course I can get this link off. Now, I'm not precious with links at all. They will get scratched and bent and twisted and everything else. I'm not going to take that link off there because I'm probably going to use those curved ones for the rear. I'm going to pull the rod end off this, which is just a steering rod or something that I've got left over. So we're going to swap out these two links because they're too long. Then we're going to put a drive shaft on it, try and work out all of our drive shafts and where everything needs to sit and all of that good stuff. These links are, if you're in the UK, Centre of Gravity RC. Absolutely love his links. The only thing I've ever managed to break on them is a rod end. And to be honest, if you can break a Revo rod end, you've given it a good enough smack to prove that the links are solid. So shout out to Centre of Gravity RC. What am I doing? What am I doing? Making a mess of things. Swapping these links out. Now they have a slight bend in them, but that's fine. Oh, actually, those fit much better than the previous ones. That will drag my axle further back, which is where we want it, which means I might be able to use my servo mount now, so that'll be interesting. Let's pop that out, pop this in. And I'll have to do both sides, get those links in, and off we go. And sorry, I keep, yeah. The comments just vanish if I don't look at them quickly enough. So I have to like constantly scroll back. And that's good, because actually by swapping the links out, oh yeah, and it's going to mess up my front link. So we'll just get that undone. Top link, it's going to mess up the top link. By swapping these out, I've actually ended up using my titanium links, which are much stronger than the absolutely terrible GPM ones that I was about to use. So let's get organised. Let's get these two links tucked in. There we go, that's one. Ah, now the shocks. Oh, everything sits much better. That sits much better. Right, that's not going to have a 4 mile long wheelbase now, so that's interesting, yes. So now we probably can use our front servo mount, but what we can't use is our stock top link because it's too long. What's that? Yep, GS02 stock axles. Yes, they are stock. They are out of an RTR, so definitely stock. Yeah, going to be having fun with these drive shafts because they're going to be all over the place. I actually think I might need to turn the transfer case around. Yeah, definitely going to have to turn the transfer case around. Which is good because it means I can take this off. Oops. Right, so the reason for the... Oh yeah, cheers man. Yeah, so I just need to spin the transfer case around because the pumpkin is offset to the opposite side than I thought it was when I was drawing it up in CAD. As I say, a lot of my designs are happy accidents rather than being very clever. Apart from, of course, these 3D printed foams. They came out perfectly. Video on those dropping tomorrow, and you'll see them in action, and hopefully you'll agree they are crazy. I never thought 3D printing foams would be possible. But yeah, totally proved myself wrong and was absolutely astounded by the results. Right, I am turning that round so it sits like that. Yeah, that's right. Okay. And yeah, if you're wondering why those foams look like really soft plastic, it's because they're 3D printed rubber, not 3D printed plastic. Right. So this is definitely trial and error. Feels a bit more error than trial at the moment. Well, actually, yeah, that said, it does feel like a trial as well. I am just trying to get the drive shaft back on to the transfer case, which it's doing. I might need to use a shorter drive shaft length. Actually, no, that's going to cycle. That's going to cycle just fine. Great. So, yeah, let's take a quick look. So we've got transfer case in, we've got a drive shaft, we've got to sort out this third link, which will be dead easy, just needs a shorter one. I've just pulled a rod end off the third link. Which would have been ideal, but obviously is now not that. But I've got a different third link just here, which is the perfect length, and it's offset, so it clears the axle. Oh, what did someone say? Yes, you're right. Yeah, John Fack. Well, this is why I get annoyed at Gmade is you buy a crawler for sort of £300–400 UK money, and until you spend another £300 or £400 fixing all the bits that they've made out of mouldy cheese, they can break a lot. But I am tempted by the GS02F because that is really interesting. But this is my own GS02F, just done in a different way. Instead of forward motor mount, instead of just forward gearboxy thing, this is forward motor mount. Right. So that's starting to look quite normal. Now there's no pins in the drive shaft yet, so that's going to be my next thing. But once I do the panhard and get that roughly in the right place, that's feeling like that might actually articulate up and down. Not sure what creaked there, but I'll find out. Actually feels like that's articulating up and down quite nicely. And it just needs a panhard in the right place. The panhard link is too short, so I will find a longer one. I'll sort that out in a bit. Now let's try and do the drive shaft again. Put the drive shaft pins somewhere safe. So that drive shaft now sits nice and tall, as you really wouldn't want in a truck, but who cares at this point. Now I want to get my motor to mock things. So if I put my motor in, it immediately knocks the drive shaft out the way. So I'm kind of thinking this may not work as well as I expected. So I'll try that again without picking up the motor. And yeah, if I'd actually sized that properly, the motor would be sat there, which is quite cool, but far too high up in this truck. I think that motor needs to be somewhere around here, but it would make my weight balance super far forwards if I ran it there. Yeah, so we're getting there. We're getting there. I might just see, because that panhard's going to be out the way, I might just see when that compresses, could I actually run this mount in a different angle to get the motor lower. I want the motor kind of there, really. I've got my little servo mount, and I think if that was if that was in place, the steering rod's going to be too long and possibly on the wrong side of the truck. Yeah. So all in all, I've made a bit of a mess of this. So I'm going to move this, I'm going to move it to here and try running the motor sort of about there with the forward motor mount. I will have to work out the drive shaft in a minute. So let's try, well, actually, let's try mocking it up this way, because I have a spare motor mount here. So I'll just quickly buzz this in. Yeah, obviously that bolt's a bit too long for what I'm trying to put it in. So I could run the motor there instead, which would still be quite far forwards. And then I could run a double servo mount in there and have a winch and all the rest of it. So I don't know. That would put our spur a lot closer, and then I just need a really short drive shaft there, which would be quite cool. But there's a lot of space in this chassis to build quite high. I did want to try this as far forwards as possible. So I think in terms of getting the servo working, I'm going to use a forward TRX4 mount in there. Let's get this one out. And then work out. So I'm going to work on the panhard bar, because if I can get the panhard in the right place, that's going to let me sort some other things out. Although I will just quickly take a quick look at these links, because I think these bottom links are going to be too long, but that's why I want to run the shorter GPM ones if I've got them, or even the TRX ones, which I said I might run if I can find them. Where are they? These lovely curved ones. If I put those in, yeah, they're going to sit perfectly. Let's do that. Let's do some more links, and then at least with some links sorted, it's going to start feeling a bit more normal. There we go. Right. So these are more for length than anything, just for fitting, because I've realised these aren't high clearance links. Let me just see if my GPM's any longer. Let me see if I've got some short high clearance links. Nope. Bent all the short ones. Okay. In fact, I'm just going to get a ruler and just see if my front links Yeah, my front links are shorter, so I do want to keep them that way. So this is going to be a weird truck. It's going to have sort of straightish rear links and curved front links. Who knows? Don't know why that one's struggling to go in. Let me just get that sorted. Okay, just must have been a bit of spare material stuck in there forming a plug. Right, that's sorted. That's just going in now. And then I'll try and triangulate the rear, get that sorted, get a rough wheelbase going, and off we go. I'm sure I do. There we go. Right, so starting to look like a truck. We've got the front 3 links done, but without the panhard. And we're just sorting the back. Sorry, I've missed all your comments. What are you on about with the forward shock idea? Forward from vertical. Yeah, I mean, it just changes your spring rates and damping ratios. But then at the disadvantage of when the crawler's level or going down a hill, your shocks are just going to be off massively. So yeah, you might be able to climb vertical climbs, but you'll struggle with anything else. Right, let's have a look. So yeah, they're now too short, so I'm going to put some longer links on there. Maybe. If I didn't have a stuck bolt. Oh, that's going to be fun. The good old Junfac G-Made bolts challenges. So that bolt's going to stop me from doing anything right now. I'll just take that whole mount off and drill it out later. It's not worth it. So, drive shafts. So if we are going to continue down this, we want to find a way to make sure that this doesn't spit a bearing or a pin out. The way I'm going to get it to not spit a pin out is, I believe, if I put enough pressure, yeah, if I back this off slightly, I should be able to put enough shims behind it to like wedge it on. So for that, I need my 0.3 shims. They're 0.2s, they're point somethings. Yeah, there they are. Right, so this is going to go into the mount. I'm going to shove a load of shims on. then wedge a pin in and hope that it all sort of stays together. Shouldn't be too much of an issue. And the force of the spring on the end will just make sure that it all stays on. Now, to do this, obviously you need stacks of shims like I've got hold of. But yeah. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to partially cover the hole so I can't get the pin in, and then just push it so that it sort of fits in. Yeah. Oh, that is strong. Right. I'll try that again and not be so weak, or use mechanical advantage. Or be sensible and just take the spring off the end. Right, that's great. So now I can just tighten that end up. Yeah, I probably will give the shocks forward thing a bit of a try, but given that this truck goes up stuff that's about 68, 70 degrees, there's not much left until you're sort of scrabbling the rear tyres off stuff that you can really add. But yeah, definitely worth a try. Right, now I'm realising that I did actually want 2 bearings in this, because as I tighten that, the slipper plate's kind of crushing some things. So out we go, and then we'll sort that out in a minute. Great. So I just need that pin to drop out and the shims to drop out. That'll be fine. Right, so we'll pop this out, stick an extra bearing in it. And then I think I'll just mill it out slightly when I get the motor to go in it, or I might just do that in a bit. So for now, it's just a case of popping this out, finding a bearing, which I've left on the table somewhere, and putting that together. Right, let's just check. So, are people subscribed to notifications? Hopefully you are, because there is that new video tomorrow. So I'm really hoping that people are subscribed to notifications and you get that notification, because I'm really interested to see what people think of the silly idea of printing foams. I'm just going to pop a bearing this as well. Right, so nice and smooth, double bearing now. I need much fewer shims, although I've nudged my pin out the way. Oh, there's my pin. So I'm going to do these shims, loosen off that end again, and then do it. 3D printed foams foams. They are absolutely mental how they work. They yeah, I mean, it's all covered in the video tomorrow, but essentially you've got super soft foam. This is the stiffer one, by the way, but then you've got loads of lateral support in the fact that the crawler can just sit on a hill, and because you've got these bands of material, they don't twist or fold, or it's just weird. I'll just drop one, and I was going to need it for part of this stream or maybe the next stream. Right, so what I've done is just stacked some shims behind this, so that as I tighten up this that puts pressure on, it's going to pull against that stack of shims and that pin, and hopefully I don't lose it on the trail anywhere. It also means that, as usual, I won't have much of a slipper clutch, and, you know, this being a G-Made, it'll be fun. Yes, hairbuns are awesome as well. I run hairbuns in a lot of my crawlers. You know what, I'll just talk to people, it'll be easier. I run hairbuns in all of my trail trucks, but I was trying to use proper foams for the super technical stuff, and I was just having trouble tuning them, finding the right ones, getting hold of some of them. The UK is not the best place to get hold of Crawler Innovations or Ot6. That is super smooth, look at that. Double bearing. So I ended up, yeah, 3D printing some as a test. There's two styles. That's a firm. Oh, that's firm as well. That's a soft. Super soft. But as you can see, I mean, there's no beadlock ring or anything. So if I just put my fingers on to be like a beadlock, like, you can kind of force them, because I can really force them here. But if you did that to a normal foam, it'd be folded in half. So yeah, really interesting. My truck was on a slope the other day with two other people who had trucks that were similar weight, and both of their front tyres had folded under them, and mine was just sat there with just straight wheels on. It was really weird. Some of the angles I can get away with are great, and I don't have to run a really wide truck anymore for really tippy angles, because you're getting so much support from the side walls. The problem is they take 2 hours per foam to print, so it's not the most commercially viable idea. But none of my ideas are the most commercially viable, so it really doesn't matter. I'm just going to check something. This dropping stuff everywhere. Well, if you run 3.8 tyres and it's hard to find foams in that size, 3D printing your own foams, where you can control all aspects of all the size of it, is really easy. I've just realised I've got this sort of axial style servo mount that I can have a play with in a bit. So I'm going to have a look at that later. Which would possibly let me flip this over, which would get... Oh no, because then the motor would be in the way. Yeah, that's fine. Let's have a look. Just thinking, did I print these the same? Yeah, I printed all these the same orientation. That's a shame. I should have mirrored some just in case. Okay, what am I doing? I am going to install this into the crawler. It needs to be mirrored, but I need to reprint it anyway. And when it's unmirrored, when it's put back to its normal thing, it might work. What was I saying I was going to do? I was going to try and run it at an angle, wasn't I? That will give me a weird drive shaft angle. So let me just show you what I'm thinking at the moment. Let's check the messages. Right, so I've got drive shaft here. So my drive shaft runs up to my spur. My drive shaft will run up to my spur if I get this to all sort of sit together. I do actually have the option of running this. I don't know why. Oh yeah, it's because the heavy end's the wrong end. Do have the option of running this at a bit of an angle, because, you know, they are CV joints, so they should be fine. Yeah. It's not the worst I've seen for a forward motor mount. And then if I drill that out and make that work, then I can mount my motor here. And that's going to be super low. And if I push down, it's not going to interfere with my panhard. And that's all going to be cool. And then I'm going to run a servo mount on the front. So I think it's a case of getting the panhard. I'm going to modify, I'm either going to modify this or show you how to make your own drive shaft pins. So just bear with me while I just sort this pin out. So it is possible to make your own drive shaft pins. It's just not recommended and can be a bit of a pain. But if I just sort this out. So I just need some set screws if I can get them. Now hopefully I've got some small enough. If I don't have them in here, I'll have them somewhere else. I think they may be a bit too big. Yeah, just see if I've got some others. I just found some short rear links as well, but they're aluminium, so they are definitely not going on. But it does give me some TRX links that I can use. Oh, there's the pins that I need for my transmission. I'll drop those in there. Oh, it really is one of those days. Right, where is everything? No, they're too big. Right, I'm hoping in this pot of random bolts, or in a box of random bolts that I've got over there, that I've got some drive shaft pins that are going to let me do what I want to do without having to modify them. But I could be wrong. I can be wrong. So I'm hoping this drive shaft pin is going to fit into here, and it's not. It's just slightly too big. So I'm just going to check for some other pins before I go making them from scratch. And always when you're unbolting stuff or you've got broken parts or anything else, if you break something, just take all the bolts. I'm just checking my chats. Take all the bolts out of anything that you're throwing away, because you never know when you need them. You know, you might start up your own YouTube channel and then decide to do a live stream where you've not planned anything. And then you're scrabbling around trying to find the parts that you need to build something that you haven't thought of properly. A bit like today, but why not? So I'm just going to try some bolts in here to see if they'll actually fit. I think these will fit. So these are just long bolts. Now what you can do is you can get some grub screws that do actually fit these properly and just use those. You can use proper drive shaft pins, grind those down. I could, if I had any sense, just drill that out. And in fact, I will. So this pin here, I'm going to drill out. That's probably going to be my easiest thing. Because the hole that's on the end of this isn't designed for drive shafts. It's designed for standard pins for putting gears on. But all I'm going to do is just drill into it to make it a bit bigger. hoping that my drill bit is made of stouter stuff than a Traxxas drive shaft. Given that Traxxas drive shafts are stupidly tough and have a great reliability record, this could be an interesting challenge. And also, I don't recommend this at home. Don't drill straight down between your legs, but in this case, needs must. So I'm just going to check the size of this pin. It is bigger than the drill bit that I've got. So let's start with finding a drill bit that is the same size as our pin, which is that one. Cool. Yeah. Yeah, that won't take long at all. Turns out that Traxxas drive shafts, as notoriously reliable as they are, aren't made out of hardened steel. Not drive shafts, gearbox shafts, but that's good. That's really good, because now my drive shaft pin fits, which means I can fit a drive shaft. So I'm going to test fit all of this stuff. So I know I've got to reprint this mount, although I might get away with just milling it out a bit. This truck's a bit of a mongrel anyway, so it really doesn't matter how much of a mess I make of all of this. And you know, the spur gear might stick through the shell as a kind of, you know, weird supercharger Mad Max kind of look. There we go. There we go. Right. So we've got our spur gear nice and far forwards, and that's, yeah, that's literally where our front motor mount is currently going to be sat if I can get the motor inside of the mount. And actually, yeah, when it's that far forwards, it doesn't fit. So I'm going to twist this round and make it fit. There we go. Now I know I can button up my drive shafts. I'll button up the transfer case, then I'll work on the link geometry a bit more. But yeah, that is smooth. This stands some chance of working. I don't think we have a good chance of getting a motor into here today. But you know, stranger things have happened. I do have the Dremel to hand, so I can always just hollow out some space for the motor. But yeah, we are looking like, right, the motor's going to sit there. So that's pretty cool. It's pretty high, but I'm not too bothered at the moment because it's all about weight bias, and we're putting everything at the front, and we know this truck's going to be super low anyway. So while this seems high, that's only going to be a few inches off the ground. Drive shaft. Now we've got a drive shaft pin that will work. Let's rotate some drive shafts, find the right holes, and get those pins in place. So just need that to hook in. Right, that's one pin. I need to find another drive shaft pin, so just bear with me. sure I threw a pack of them in here once, just to have them with me on the trail. Got some massive ones for like a, well, not a TRX. Yeah, there we go. There's another one. None of them seem to be the same, so that's always interesting. Right, that goes in there. And we'll just do those up gently. Yeah, just throwing that pin somewhere, so we'll dig that out. Right. Sorry, not keeping an eye on the chat. Oh, no one's talking. Great. Yeah. So all in all, this is just a weird humpback, front-loaded, weird truck, but I mean, it can't be any worse than a Komodo, so hey-ho. Right, drive shaft's a bit rattly. So we are at the point where we've got our counter-rotating drive shafts. That's all cool. I'm going to do another drive shaft in a minute to go off the back. I need to sort out the upper links. I think I need a servo in a servo mount, and I probably need to make the motor fit. So that will be useful. Where's my spare motor mount? How far off are we on that? Oh, it's only slightly, so just the odd file. I'm just enlarging the hole for the motor to go into. And again, because I print 100% infill, should be fine. Right, that motor now fits in, I'm not going to say perfectly. I think I'm just going to stop short at that motor fits in, and I'll just change that in CAD. So if I print off another one to be a bit bigger. Something I do need to check, which I've got some pinions here, is how I got the pinion sizing correct. And I will, of course, try and take the smallest pinion I can, which in this case is the 13, and yeah, I just need that motor mount to be a bit bigger, like I said, and unfortunately the spur is getting in the way now, so I need to pop the spur off before I get it with the file, open up that hole, put a rear drive shaft on, put some rear links on, and then probably call it a day. So yeah, not too long to go now, but it looks like the forward motor mount kit is going to fit. I'm going to nose mount the servo. I'm going to do a panhard bar or get that sorted at some point. So that should now push in to release that. And if I can get that out without dropping too many shims, Right. That's just refusing to release. There we go. Because we drilled it, and the bit where we drilled it, I didn't take all the burrs off. So now it's a bit wedged. But I'll sort that out in a minute. No, I won't. I'll get that off now. Keep an eye on the chat as well. Right. Yeah, that's great. Those burrs have just snipped off. So the hole that I'm enlarging is this motor hole. And I think with some of the last minute changes to the CAD file and things that I did, I just didn't make it big enough, that hole. So I'm just making it bigger now. Par for the course, prototype parts. Yeah, just need to take a bit more material out and that will work brilliantly. It's just a case of fit, change, refit, fit, change, refit. So apologies if this is a little bit tedious. Use a file with a bigger surface area to just try and get some of that. Oh no, not big enough. Not big enough. The hole, not the file. Okay, so hopefully that is about as far away as we need to make it, because it's now starting to just nudge against the bearing retainer, and we have a gear mesh. So we had a gate mesh and then it's dropped everything on the floor. So I'm just going to blow off the dust, just double check for messages. Right, so I need to put all these shims back on, squeeze that pin back in, and we should be good to mount a motor in as a temporary test. Yeah, just need one more shim. Right, that's feeling good. Get some tension on that. Yeah, we're great. Right, here we go. There's our spur spinning away. Here's our drive shaft and our drive shaft pin. And we'll just make sure that that's roughly clocked, so it's not going to moan too much when it's under power. Pop our pin in. Get that tightened up. Right. I need some drive shaft pins for the rest of it, which I'll find in a minute. Rod ends and all sorts. I'm going to get a motor mounted in, just so I've got a view of kind of how it sits. It's going to be on the shortest bolts ever, or most unsafe bolts ever, but that's all right. Get the old 2.5 going, if I can find it. Cool, here we go. So let's mount a motor in here so that we're kind of looking at where things are sitting and everything else. So for that we need okay, sure that was the right length. Just need to find the motor mounting hole. I just missed it. There we go. Great. So I'm going to push this across as far as possible. It's not getting mounted properly, it's just getting put in there so that you can see where it's going to be. Right. Chris is late. Chris, you are not 37 minutes late. You are an hour and 37 minutes late because I started early. But that is entirely my fault. Great to see you on the stream. Right. If I'd done this properly, I could have got my pinion on there. But we have a motor mounted. We have the upper drive shaft mounted properly. The lower drive shaft, I'm just going to put some pins in and pray that these are going to work. So this is the Junfac drive shaft. Just align those holes. Where's the hole? That's that one in there. Then I'll get the front one sorted. Don't worry, it's always available on playback for anyone who's missed anything that's going on. Just about to do the interesting stuff anyway, like throw my drive shaft pins all over the table and get frustrated with myself. But if I get that sorted, right, we are at the point where I'm actually going to bolt in the transfer case properly, because it can just sit in the front. So here we go. Let's get that, get torque turned down on that. Right, we have a transfer case sat in there. That's being driven by the forward motor mount, which in this chassis is super high, a bit too high. I've actually mirrored it in my slicer, thinking that the servo needed to be on this side, and I'm wrong, it needs to be on this side. So I'm actually going to reprint this the other way round with a bigger hole for the motor, so I can flip that around. That should be fine in terms of drive shaft angles, because this top shaft is only going to move across a little bit. I now need to put together a drive shaft for the rear, so we'll do that now. So I've got 2 packs of the Junfac drive shaft ends. I'm hoping in my spares box that I have some of these inserts. So I've got one. If I don't happen to have a second, I don't have a second drive shaft. There's my second. So that's great. I have some drive shaft pieces here, ready done, with some random bits that I don't know if I need. No, I don't need those bits. So that's hopefully my rear drive shaft. I'm just going to check this for length. That is possibly just a bit too long. So we'll try it with this shorter piece. Shorter piece is spot on. So I'm going to build a drive shaft. Let's have a look. So I'm pushing these metal pieces in. Don't know why I'm going through this so much, because I don't recommend these as drive shafts, so I wouldn't bother with them. It is nice to have plastic drive shafts though in this crawler, because it is aimed to be as light as possible. I'm just going to put some screws in to hold those metal pieces. No, I don't do that. I build these metal pieces first and then we do it. I'm rushing now because I'm all excited because I want to see both axles turning. What I didn't mention at the start is these axles are counter-rotating. So they rotate in opposite directions. Which you may already know from things. And what am I doing? I need to just get these pins right. But yes, counter-rotating drive shafts massively reduces torque twist. So does overdrive in the transfer case. So the whole idea of this is to have a straight axled crawler with the minimum of torque twist that I can possibly get away with. That said, you never know, and it might be that I've designed the whole thing completely wrong. But I tell you what else I'm having a problem with is these grub screws to hold my axles together. So let me just get these sorted. Okay, that's not the pin for that. That's the pin for that. These are just a bit fiddly, so please just bear with me. So we're in the final bits of putting together a forward motor mount that I've designed myself for my own amusement, for your viewing pleasure. Because why not? Well, mostly because this truck has been sat on a shelf ever since I bought a TRX. This truck has been sat on a shelf because TRXs have just worked better for my needs. Well, that's interesting. That screw I've used is a bit too long. I did not realise I need a shorter version than that. That's going to be fun to find. Yeah, so ever since I've had TRXs, I've barely used the G-Made because it just let me down too much. I think when you're a beginner, as I was at the start of lockdown, that the G-Made just requires a little bit more finesse, a little bit more being delicate, a little bit finer control, and not crashing all the time, because they do work. So Chris is asking, did I have a chance to edit the video? Yes, I've talked all the way through this about the video that is coming out tomorrow about the tyre inserts. The person who's asking on the chat, for anyone who's watching it on the playback, is one of the very, very few people that I've met that I've given a set to. So he got his set yesterday, I believe, and hopefully he's enjoying them. If not, you know, off we go. Right, I have got one end of my drive shaft together. I'm just doing the other end. They are just a weird design. They're not like the TRX ones that just work. But yeah, G-Made crawlers. If you want something that you're going to be gentle with, that you're going to be careful and you're going to finesse all over the place, but you want it to perform brilliantly, then yes, G-Mades are fantastic. But if you like to smash your crawlers about and get frustrated or get a bit excited or anything else, then they're not for you, because you'll be like me and you'll be breaking CV joints and all sorts. There's nothing worse than hiking 45 minutes up a hill to get somewhere that's like an amazing place to go rock crawling and then just have your CV joint explode. So you end up carrying loads of spares, almost an entire truck in spares, and it's not as easy as an experience as, say, an Axial or a TRX. I prefer Traxxas. If you want something that you can just go and use and trash and smash and destroy, then Traxxas is absolutely the right thing. Axials, loads of aftermarket support, a little bit cheaper and everything else. And the G-Made, if you want something that's different, performs amazingly well, and are willing to put the effort in to make it work properly, definitely. But I mean, to give you an idea of what you can do to a Traxxas, this is like part of a 2-speed transmission. None of the bearings work on it. Yet I didn't know this transmission was broken. It just carried on working. All of the bearings were just complete dust, but it just somehow felt smooth and was fine. And not a lot of other trucks do that. You know, as soon as they start spitting out bearings, all the teeth break off the gears and loads of other challenges. So yeah, enough of me being a Traxxas fanboy. Do like Axial. Haven't yet bought one, but I do like them. Maybe if I get a pay rise or a bonus or a new job or something else, then I'll treat myself to an Axial, because I do fancy an SCX10 to play with. But, and I was saying this to someone yesterday, I just like one rig, and I like to drive that rig and play with that rig and sort everything else. Just noticed Chris said that he got his phones on Saturday, and he's not had a chance to use them yet, but he saw them on my rig, and yeah, they perform really well. Right, we appear to have two ends of a drive shaft, albeit this end being a little bit wiggly. Not sure why that's not tight, but not sure I really care at this point. Oh, that's, yeah, whatever, it'll be fine. So short end, long end, I've got a drive shaft pin. I just need one more drive shaft pin. Which I thought I had in my spares. So I might just use a grub screw in a minute if I get tired of looking. Keep finding these giant ones as well. They're not going to help me. Right. Let's get this bottom one in, and then we'll work on the top drive shaft pin, and then we'll work on some other things like, you know, other important stuff like links. Links would be useful. So we're going to go in with that one. Oh, that one's a bit too big. Doesn't like it. Let's just check that. Yeah, that drive shaft pin's too big. So I need some drive shaft pins that fit, and I probably need that to fit properly. So I'll get a shorter screw in that. We're not far off. Not far off. But yeah, if you've got any questions, keep throwing them in the comments. I have to keep digging for drive shaft pins. I wonder if I've got some in here. Right, there we go. They can go on the wish list. Just need a screw to hold that in properly. And that super short one will do. Yeah, that is all sorted. Right, we're going to line that, get this pin. It's close enough, it's a bit dirty, so I'll just no, that is not going to fit. No, that's not going to fit either. I am going to have some problems with drive shaft pins. Maybe if I take these ones out of here, they might fit, and then I can try different ones in there. Oh, well, this is certainly making the end of this a bit tedious. Right, let's try and let's just double check for questions. And flip this over. And try this pin on the other end of the drive shaft. See if that fits, and then if it does, just I'll find a way. I'll find a way to make it fit. Might just be some dirt in the hole where I forced the pin out. Yeah, that's gone in absolutely fine. Put this one in the end of there. Close enough. Yep. In fact, that's because that's a Traxxas one. Let's have a look. Drive shaft pins always cause me all kinds of pain. I just literally have one to go in and we're done. So I might, if I can find an M2.5 bolt, might show you how to basically bodge it. In fact, if I have an M2.5 grub screw, that would be even better. Because a lot of drive shaft pins, I use one of these comically oversized ones, have a thread and then have just had the rest of the pin turned off. So if you just get an M2 bolt and just force it in, that tends to have the same effect. So I'm just trying to get these to line up. Oh, come on. So I'll tip this down slightly. So we're just at the last bit, we're just trying to get this drive shaft to connect onto this yoke. That's where the thread is, that's where the hole is. And I'm going to try a variety of pins, see which one fits. Whichever one goes in first wins. So that pin's refusing to go into that hole. I'm just going to grab this 2.5mm. That's screwing in fine. But it's not finding that hole very well. I can't believe that pin, which is a standard drive shaft pin, won't go in that hole. So I'm just going to force it because I'm tired and I'll order some more and I just want to see this thing rotate. That is not having it. Done with that. Right, we have got lower links installed. Need to sort out some uppers. So we've got straight links on the rear, curved links on the front, because that's all we've got at the moment. We need to sort out the panhard so that stops tilting back. When I turn this, if I turn this forwards, both axles are rotating forwards, which is a good start. Now, the level of overdrive seems a little bit extreme at the moment. but that is because the rear doesn't have a drive shaft pin in it. That's why. So just need to sort that out. This as well, this diff doesn't feel healthy, feels a bit twisty, so I'm not sure what to do with that. That's where I had that bounce back feeling, so I might have to pop that diff cover off and have a look. I am going to try one last attempt at getting it to somehow go together. So I'm just doing some grub screws so that you can see the overdrive on this. And what the grub screws are doing are just compressing against the drive shaft yokes. That will just have to do for now. Right, we have. Okay, hopefully you can see if I turn, yeah. So that's the rear turning forwards, and I'm still turning the spur the same way. So the front's turning forwards. So we now have forward motor mount, high up, but forwards, super far forwards, you know, right above the axle. The axles are, yeah, they're doing fine. There's nothing too untoward about there. Just needs a bit of control from the panhard, which will sort that out. The rears, I need to sort these links out somehow. Don't know what to do about these links. They're stuck essentially, so I can't do anything about that. But yeah, we have a super far forwards transmission with overdrive and a super far forwards motor mount. And to be honest, I'm kind of half thinking I might just use this transmission on my truck and use one of my TRX transmissions in this truck, but then it won't be counter rotating, so I've got no idea. So a couple of different things going on there. But yeah, that is starting to come together. We have a degree of lowness. So that is with the shocks fully extended and the skid is roughly a few mil above the axles. So that puts it on a 4.8 tyre, 120 millimeter tyre. It puts the skid 60 mil off the ground at full extension. At full travel, that's probably going to be like 40 mil off the ground. So it's going to be a super low truck. Obviously need some longer links on the rear, which I've got knocking about. I just need to install them somehow. Probably need to drill out that bolt if it's not going to come out, or swap that mount for something else. And then, yeah, I need a panhard bar. And to be honest, to get the right length panhard bar for this Northwest Scaler Designs, because this has like a tuck under panhard bar normally, I'm going to take the front link from something else and just chuck that on now. So let's just get our front axle sorted. And then I think it's time for a break, because 2 hours is enough for me. Yeah. So the great thing about these GPM links is, I mean, they're aluminium, so that's not good. They have a reverse thread at one end. So if I want to change the length of my panhard bar, I can just poke something in here and twist it. But I'm just going to Just going to make sure that the threads are starting off loosened, because otherwise they can be a bit of a pig. Yeah, like this one is. Let's check the charts. Right, yeah, so we are good to go. Yeah, like that. That will do. Great, so just need the bolt for that, and I'll get a panhard bar installed. Panhard rod, panhard bar, lost track, doesn't matter. So at this point in time, the panhard rod isn't going to matter it's attached to. It's just about making sure that we've got the right triangulation, everything else. In the future, when I come to install it properly, it needs to be at the same angle as the steering rod, and that's the eye to eye angle, not the bend of it. Otherwise, we will end up with funky steering. But for now, we've got quite a nice pinion angle, so I'm not too bothered about that. Let me just get that bolt on properly. Right, so now we can check our front end. So our front end is now triangulated by the panhard bar, so that's great. So we've got a bit of pinion angle that we need to tidy up. We do that by adjusting where this front link is. Giving that a bit of a push, everything is cycling, but that front link is a bit of a funny length. So I'm just going to change that now. And then I've got the front end of this truck sorted. Yeah, just need to work out steering servo and things. But I think if I print that mount again with the correct bits and bobs and chuck some bearings in it, that's going to be spot on. So I'm just going to extend this front link. Sorry, move my front link a bit further forwards. I think. Yeah, that feels like my front suspension's not a million miles off. Because that's now triangulated. Nearly there. But yeah, this is R&D at its worst, I imagine. I'm quite self-deprecating. I'm not claiming to be a genius. I'm just someone who can somehow whip something together in CAD. And yeah, that pinion angle's a bit better. It's a little bit off. Everything's going up and down correctly. I probably can get away with moving that across, but we now have a front end that goes up and down, albeit a little bit wonky at the moment. We've got a rear end that just needs some links sorting out. We have a transmission that is forward mounted. This is going to get reprinted so that I've lost the servo mount. So the servo mount can sit in there as well. And I think, given where drive shafts and everything's ending up, that servo mount is going to sit it's going to sit about there. Try and hold that in place. That's where the servo mount's going to sit. So there's going to be a servo there. And so, yeah, I need to work out some of these bolts for where the shocks are being held on. But yeah, we're getting there. We've got a forward mounted motor forward mounted servo when I get it sorted, a transfer case, and then yeah, kind of thinking I'm going to chuck a Tamiya Blackfoot body on it, with the obvious problem being that it will have the wrong wheelbase. So that body is going to sit around about there, with the rear end cut off, and it's going to be a pretty cool looking truck. Yeah, that's going to be quite cool. So thank you for watching. It's been interesting for me anyway. My thoughts at the moment are I might actually swap the rails out for some TRX scattergun rails, because they might just work better with the forward motor mount. But yeah, it's going to be a, well, it looks like it's going to be a pickup truck. It might end up a bit of a flatbed or something else. But the great thing is that super low transmission means there is loads and loads and loads of space for an interior. So I can do I can do a full driver. I mean, you might have a drive shaft in a bit of an odd place, but yeah, I can do a full interior. I can do all sorts now. I can have a spur gear poking through the bonnet, the hood. But yeah, this rear diff is definitely not happy. It's got some kind of pushback, and I can't seem to get those links out. Yeah, if it does perform well, we will knock some out in batches, but a lot of people are getting in touch about the transmission that's in this, which is the TRX4 overdrive transmission, because that is just performing amazingly well, as you will see in the video about the phones. Right, catch you all next time. Thank you for watching. Yeah, it was fun to just talk to a camera for a bit, but right now it's time for bed. Catch you later. Thank you, everyone.